Hi, and welcome to B&H Real Exposures, where we interview today's top pros. We ask these rock stars of photography in-depth questions to get insight you won't find anywhere else. I'm David Brommer, your host of Real Exposures, and today we're sitting with Moose Peterson, a legendary photographer known for his work in wilderness and aviation. Moose is the author of 2 books, Moose is Captured, a treatise on photography in the wild, and Taking Flight, an iBook illustrating aerial photography for beginners. Moose leads workshops across the country, is an advocate for conservation, and reviews gear as well as beta tests some of digital photography's most important software. You probably know a few of these pieces of software. Moose's blogs are a go-to resource on photo technology. And if all that hasn't convinced you yet, I'd like to think of Moose as a modern Leonardo da Vinci of photography with his explorations of the natural world and technology. He even has a filter named after him. Pretty cool. Welcome, Moose, to Real Exposure. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Leonardo? Seriously? It snows in New York that much, huh?
Well, I figured the Leonardo part, Leonardo, he ruled the natural world, and technology was his specialty.
He was, yeah, and he did a lot of things. You don't mind if I make a couple corrections, do you?
Sure, let's hear it.
I'm not a rock star. I'm just a person, and I'm very fortunate that photography is so good to me, but I'm not a rock star. And I have 25 books.
25 books.
I've written 25 books.
You know, I was looking at your website, and you just featured those last 2 books.
Right, yeah.
So
25. And then it's not an ebook, it's an iBook. And there's a big difference.
Right.
So it's an iBook.
You say you could update it as it goes along? And
well, there's a lot of things about it. It's Taking Flight is a brand new, never before genre of book publishing. It is a full book, okay? I mean, it's a gazillion pages and images. But it's not just a book. It's not like a romantic novel. I have my fire, my glass of wine, and turn a page kind of book. It's a how-to book, and it was done and written and presented in such a way that your learning can be done any way you want. In that there's a video in there, there are charts that are interactive, there are slideshows, and all of this we're constantly updating. So an ebook is just basically a glorified PDF with some links. This is completely interactive. And the very last chapter of this book has no words. It's all videos teaching basic finishing concepts. So this is the first book of its type on the planet. And its reception has been amazing. But yeah, trying to just get people to, because we're changing. Digital is changing a lot of things we do as visual communicators. We first saw it in 2000 when digital sort of got accepted, and then we had this instant medium, instant gratification, and then you have the iPad kind of evolution, and then you see the decline of the classic editorial magazine. So this iBook and other publications we're putting out, we have people around the globe. With the Taking Flight, last time I looked, has been bought in 18 countries. Okay. Any hard copy book that I've ever published before, maybe 3 countries at most. So now it's global. So I'm hearing from people around the globe, and that's really cool. That
interaction, a couple of years ago, you came here and spoke at B&H at the event space, and you showed some really cool interior cockpit panoramas. And when I was researching on today's interview, looking at Taking Flight, I saw some of that work got integrated into that.
You bet.
That was pretty revolutionary. I mean,
yeah, it's photography is what? It is a means of taking people with you wherever your ventures take you, okay? Whether it's inside a building or inside a great national forest, okay? And if you're successful, people look at your photograph and they feel like they're there. You've put them into that spot. They can feel that cool breeze. They can hear the rush of the water. They can feel that experience. A plane, most people experience a plane like here in New York, uninterrupted. They go on the decks and there's a plane and they read a little plaque. But a plane is meant to hit the skies. It's meant to dart through the clouds. It's meant to just to haul down through the planet. And you're sitting on the deck of the Intrepid, you don't get that experience what's being in that cockpit. So the cockpit panos and the whole technique we came up with, which it's just like the book and everything else is digital. My son Brent is the one who helped me once I got the mechanics and the photography part, which is what I do. He helped get it all into a point where now anybody can sit in a cockpit of a plane and see that whole experience of looking around what it is. You can zoom on the controls. So now when you're on that deck, and these are being used in museums now, we're doing it for different museums, people can now feel what it is to be in that plane And that's just
And
another extension of
historical
photography.
planes too, not just regular
Right.
modern planes.
Right, not just your basic kind of little piper down the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time you sat in the cockpit of a Mustang? That's
last week. But no, it's, well, I'm being flippant, but I was last week. Anyway, yeah.
That's really impressive, and it shows your commitment to technology and photography. You bring them side by side, and hence the Leonardo da Vinci. So, when I first read your columns and first found out about you, it was about outdoor photography and in the wild and nature, and you kind of have a split personality of the aviation and the wild.
You have no idea how many split personalities I have.
Who am I talking to now?
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
What is first and foremost? I know it's a difficult question, but if your heart had to lie into one direction, where would it really be?
You would never see me. I'd be out shooting wildlife.
Okay, so the critters win.
Oh yeah. I am the best in the world at sitting on a rock and staring at a hole in the ground for 18 hours waiting for the picture. There's no one better than me on the planet for doing that. So that's what I do. Okay, and I go out and a lot of pieces of our wild heritage which take that much time. That's what I'm really best at.
And you've also managed to. Your photography has a depth because you're looking at endangered species. You're educating. You're bringing out anything. As photographers who appreciate the wild and will travel to the great national parks of America, which is really our gem, right? What can a photographer do when he's there making photographs of this incredible land? What advice do you have so that they can take it a little bit further? What's the step after the photograph is taken?
Well, do you fly fish by any chance?
Once.
Fly fishermen, when
10 o'clock, 1 o'clock? 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock?
10 and 2.
10 and 2. That's why I wasn't catching anything.
Okay. Well, fly fishermen, when they go out, okay, they park, they walk to the body of water they're going to fish. And before they even cast a shadow on that water, they stop, they look, and they watch. They're looking where the water's flowing, how the insects are hitting the water, where the fish are actually coming and hitting those insects. And they do this because they know after that first cast, all the fish know they're there. So that one big fish, that one big chance is that first cast. So you make it correct, you do it right. That means you stop and look and learn from what you're seeing. Any wild photographer takes that same philosophy, they'll get better photographs. What I call panic photography. The photographer stops here, takes a picture, runs here, takes a picture, runs there. You can see it, the photographers do it like crazy, and then they come back to edit their images, and they're like, okay, maybe, sort of. It just takes one. It's what we also call sniper mode. One click, there's the great shot. Okay. Now I say great shot doesn't mean it's you make $1 gazillion or you're going to have it everywhere. The great shot means, in all seriousness, that one photograph just now took all that time, getting up early, driving that location, the cool morning. The great shot is encapsulate the entire experience up to that point, and now has it visually captured. That's the great shot. That's what most photographers tend to blow past in their hurry to get, quantity or whatever it is that they are after. It just takes one great shot that encapsulates all those memories, and you win.
If you were to go into the wilderness and for a photo session, how many images are you happy and content with when you come out that are those bangers, those 5-star images?
I have 2 million images in my files and over 30 years. So whatever that averages out to, that's how happy I am.
Malcolm Gladwell says, who is it that said 10,000 photographs, you start to actually take the good ones. Your first 10,000 are testing.
Well, maybe. People always ask, what are your percentage of keepers? And that's a very common question. And for me, it's basically 90%. Bottom line is, if I don't like the picture, I don't take it. So it starts right off the bat. And then, even though I alpha and beta test all these new electronic digital products, I'm a very much old-fashioned photographer. My first 20 years was film. And first 20 years with film, you sent it to the photo buyer, and inside his little cardboard mount, you were judged. You didn't crop, you didn't dodge, you didn't do any of those things that people take for granted today. What you presented was your statement. That very old-fashioned, you could say, criteria of what a photographer was or wasn't, or successful or isn't successful, I still use in digital. So it's the same thing. I go out and for all my critters, critters are for me the easiest things to photograph. I take the picture and I'm done, because they don't see Photoshop, they don't do anything, because it's most of the time it's a scientific record. It's and what the scientists, the biologists see in that frame is what they're going to use to make judgment calls or make decisions or bias their data towards. So it has to be what you see is what you took.
How do aesthetics play in with a scientific documentation of a critter? Aesthetics of the photograph, the right.
That's where the fine line is. People always talk about, well, not so much anymore, but the manipulating image. That was like the big word, manipulating. People don't understand that as soon as you underexpose by a third of a stop, you've manipulated the image, okay? Because you've now biased the shadows, you've biased the colors. All that changes and manipulates the reality. So when I'm doing stuff that, like I'm shooting down Los Angeles Basin, which has that smog layer, and I'm photographing a little butterfly, the color is essential. That means I have to use flash. I bring in my own light source, so I have 5500 Kelvin, so the blue is blue. It's not some variety of smog sun blue. So there's a lot that can go into that, and that's very much the technical side. Then there's the aesthetics, and the aesthetics come from how you arrange the elements in the frame, and that's, again, and most importantly, a personal thing. People are always asking for and looking for guidance in composition, and it's like writing. Okay, all the great writers have their own style of writing, yet they still use adjectives and verbs and nouns like anybody else can, but how they assemble them is how they tell a story. That's how they have their writing style. And photography is very much the same way. So often when people say, look at my picture, give me a comment, and I instantly will say, well, if we'll take this photograph and say this is a paragraph of words, okay, and then this part of the picture, there's no information. So now we take out 20% of words out of this paragraph. And this side, this part of the photograph is very muddy, so now we take out another 10% of the words of the paragraph. So instantly, your photograph is only like 50% of a paragraph. Can somebody understand what you really wrote? So it's the same thing about the photograph. You have to, in many ways, first meet your own expectations.
It's a visual vocabulary of a sort.
It's what it is. It's no different than a painting or a song. It's all a means of reaching out and grabbing someone's heartstrings.
So introducing a new lens or new focal lengths into your repertoire or your vocabulary, that can dramatically change the work that you're producing.
100%. Yeah.
Now,
or anything else in photography.
Sometimes the adage of jack of all trades, master of nothing comes into play. And if you've got an assembly of focal lengths, lenses, can that dilute your message?
Sure.
Do you have any recommendations for somebody who's really kind of, here at B&H, we love someone who buys every focal length and every mount. And
so do manufacturers. That's how they stay in business. I operate with a very simple thing. It's called the KISS theorem. Do you know what the KISS theorem is?
George Bates, my old art teacher.
Keep it simple. The last important word, stupid. Okay. So the KISS theorem works in everything, and the basics is real simple. When you keep it simple, okay, it's something you can repeat. Anything that's complicated, we tend to either make it a chore and don't do it, or we don't remember all the steps. So when you keep it simple, okay, especially for stupid, it's something you can do all the time. It's very simple.
Speaking of keep it simple, I get a lot of questions here at B&H on all these amazing cameras that are out, and technology is changing. And something that we've seen is the mirrorless camera. And now there's a dialogue going among photographers on mirrorless versus DSLR. People say, what should I get? Should I get a DSLR? Is DSLR a dying breed? Is mirrorless the way to go? What's your take on the mirrorless versus DSLR?
You should get what's fun. Because these are tools.
Right.
If you go into a painting group, they don't sit there and debate about camel hair versus pig hair. They just say, what kind of stroke are we going to get? The tool is the means to that stroke, but the stroke really matters. So mirrorless, J2 from Nikon, for example, great little camera. Had a lot of fun with it. Okay. Will it replace my DSLRs? Never, not my time. Okay. Now, I just did a program this last week, and a gentleman had the new Olympus. And I don't remember the model number. A little black guy, mirrorless guy, and he was sitting there shooting that, and every time he pulled that camera out of his bag, he had this huge smile on his face. Before anything else happened, he pulled it out of the bag. He had a big smile, And so to me, right then, for that gentleman at that point in time, mirrorless was the perfect tool. Okay, and he went out and he shot with this thing, and he was taking this picture, that picture. He had these different lenses, and he's playing around. He's taking portraits, doing landscapes, and he's having a great time with this thing. And he had a D4, had a D800, he had those things as well. But when he wanted to go and just goof, you could say, he pulled it out and take these pictures, and then it's got this. He showed it to me. It has some really amazing features, and it's got these set of I guess you'd call them finishing filters or plugins, and he was sitting there going, okay, and then he knew what he was going to do. He went there and he did it, and he had these finished pictures, and then he instantly had them on his iPhone, and then he had them sharing with his friends back home, and he's in Maine.
Impressive, yeah.
So to me, it's like, that's photography. It's great. He's sharing his moments, and the mirrorless made it happen. So who can knock that? I couldn't do it with my D4. On the split side, okay, I have the D4, and I'm shooting 10 frames per second, and I can't do that instant sharing. But I've got a file now that will go forever. It has the quality I need for everything I need as a business person, and it's still a ton of fun.
I think you just said that as a business person, as a professional, the DSLR Realm, let's take a 600 f4 for birding. You could, with adapters, put a 600 f4 on this. I don't know how using such a small camera on such a large lens would actually work.
Well, here's the first
out.
problem. How are you going to attach a flash? All right. Then if you could attach a flash, how are you going to sync up the ambient light with the flash exposure?
Right. I guess that is missing from.
So there's that. And then proper long lens technique is you need to push your eye against that viewfinder or that eye cup, right? You can't do that even with the other version. Okay. So yeah, those things are possible. They're not practical. And all these are tools. It's kind of like a carpenter, right? He goes to build a house. He's going to have one saw to build a frame, another saw to put the door in, and another saw to finish the cabinets, right? It's no different.
That's exact. I agree with you 100% on that. Okay, so I'm going to take this a little step further and say now you've talked about the way they share the photographs, which obviously, is a photograph good if you don't show it to anybody? If you just keep it yourself? I mean, you want to get this out there, right? We're seeing the decline of the print and the ascension of electronic sharing. Where is this taking us? Are we going to lament the print?
You mean the print is on the wall or print is in a magazine?
A photographer, I believe that we are taking more photographs now than ever has been happening, but we're actually printing less photographs. So we're sharing them we're putting them on Flickr groups, we're sharing them on our Facebook, we're tweeting the tweet pics. Instagram is tremendous, but look at the labs. The labs are becoming fewer and farther apart. They've been replaced down to small kiosks if they're actually there. And then you've gone to Photo Plus here in New York City probably every year, and you remember when half of the hall were plotters and printers, and the print is starting to almost become I'll say antiquated, but less people are printing than ever before. How is this going to change and affect our photography?
Well, I don't think, at least it might be my own circle, but printing is more and more and more. Since I'm teaching printing, I get a ton of printing questions. On my website, there's even Moose's Print Lab with a ton of information and 40 pages of free PDFs. So printing is, at least in my circles, is growing.
Black and white printing or color printing?
Both.
Would you say one has an edge over the other? Or is there
well, I hear probably more about black and white because it's more of a challenge in printing. But I don't think that's because it's a bigger percentage of printers. I just think it's more of a challenge. The digital medium does a great job at black and white, but you do have to know what hoops to jump through to bring out the classic black and white tonalities that we're used to in the old wet darkroom. But it can be done. You just need to understand some of those hoops you have to jump through.
When was the last time you printed in a wet darkroom?
Oh, I have to be in the mid '80s.
Really? Wow. Okay. Okay. You know what? A final question to wrap it up would be, where is our future of photography? Digital is in the ascendant. 12 years ago it came, and by the way, film is still, we're still selling film at B&H. We still have a darkroom department, so it's very niche, but it's still there. What's going to be next? What do you predict?
No clue.
Litro?
Oh lordy, that's a disaster. I've been playing with that. That's just a Forget that right now.
Okay.
Is it possible? Maybe, but it is. You know, the for people who don't know, the basic concept of the electro is you can set your focus point after. Okay, so it's like great. Photographers already have a problem with depth of field, and now you want him to sit there and take a picture in a little square hole, and with very little ability to do any finishing and select a focus point after the fact. So no, I don't think that is. If I had my druthers, we would be moving past the constant need for more megapixels. I still don't understand that at all, to be honest with you. There are certain definite needs for it in certain things, everything from satellites to advertising. Mm-hmm. But for the basic photographer, why you need those pixels? I'm not sure I understand that mentality. So I'd love to totally move past that mentality. And I'd love to move past which is better, Nikon or Canon, because it's really irrelevant. Okay, so I like to get past all that. And just get into using photography for what it's always been meant to be. It's a vehicle for change. Okay, either be change in our own person's life to a global sense, anywhere in between. If we got to that point, I think photography would evolve to a grander standard of communicating, as well as a more enjoyable for everybody. Photographers seem to really beat themselves up on this thing called a photograph. Good or bad, what was taken with, not taken with, all that kind of stuff. And
what exposure?
Oh God,
JPEG or RAW?
All that stuff. Okay, and in all seriousness, if you don't get the picture, the sun still comes up tomorrow, because it's still just a photograph. So, take a deep breath and smell the roses, enjoy it. If we got evolved to that, I think photography would just really elevate.
Well, it's really been wonderful having you here. Moose, your perspective is greatly appreciated on Real Exposures, and I look forward to seeing what's next from you and seeing where our passion takes us in photography. And thank you very much.
Thank you, David. It's been great having you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
For more information, please visit us online, give us a call, or stop by our New York City Superstore. You can also connect with us on the web.